Kale kia huwhanga ki he ngāhi whakatapu. Whakatapu ki o tua I he langi, whakatapu ki papa tuanuku I lalo, whakatapu ki he tangata whonua Ngāti Whātua o rā kei Ngāti Paua, whakatapu ki mo tolu katoa. I'm just going to read poems, I hope that's okay. Let's start with this one. Albert Wendt wrote a poem called Inside Us the Dead. Albert said, "Inside us the dead. Maybe I wouldn't feel so lonely if my body could recall those connections. There are only silences. I am bound in this place, time and space. The vow with the past is broken. Even when pregnant, my body feels like a ship lost in water, remote, afloat, solitary and heaving with seasickness. I did not feel the mercury line connecting those before me with their destiny. I am not capable of thinking this blood is a ripple in an ocean of our blood. I am the next wave of a tide that has been coming for a long time. This vein leads back to my bones. This is what I have learned from books. I am an individual, but I suspect my body remembers you all. The curve of my legs, the shape of my fingers, the face of my son. Yes, every limb, every bend, every bone is a recollection of who has been before, a memory of all the bodies that have been the making of me. Inside us, the dead. We have all travelled through the bodies of many relatives to arrive here, all of us wearing those who have passed fresh on our faces. Yes, here we are again, all meeting in the children. And even in this new land, let us find our pathways back to ourselves. Can we find our way back to that place where we once belonged in order to find our way forward? If ever the world needed to find its way, it's now. We have so much to remember. We have so much to learn. We have so much to teach. When I was in Hawaii, Tamir Rice died. He was a young African-American black boy that was shot by the police. And I wrote an ode to Tamir Rice. It's called For Tamir, with love from Aotearoa, even though I was in Manoa Valley at the time. Shout out to Manoa Valley. Well, yeah. Tamir Rice, let me apologise. I cannot begin the day with reading any more about you. I know your killers were set free, and what am I to do but feel hopeless tears fall in my coffee first thing? Know that I name you, Tamir Rice. I see your beautiful smile, and I have no words for the perpetrators who have killed dreams like so many before them. My words are for you. Know that I see your face in my sons, but not their fate. In this country, racism is not so trigger-happy, but it is still uniformed. Here, young men who look like my sons are more likely to be imprisoned than anyone else in the world. In the world, Tamir, our police force admits to unconscious bias. But you are not unconscious, Tamir. You are dead, child, and it is here our grief rests. All of that freedom lost, living or dead, all of that control, which in its zenith becomes life or death. It is for all of that fear and hatred whereby some people are dehumanised to the point that they just become visible threats, moving targets just by being in their own bodies. We know that on some level they will try and defame you and blame you like all the other innocents they kill in cold blood. There is a certain kind of history that leads us here to Mir that they do not teach in schools. It is a long legacy, centuries of life-taking, land-stealing, plunder of resources, diamonds, coal, forests, farms, water, everything taken by organised mass murder. No, Tamir, this happened almost all over the world. Whole countries were taken, whole peoples were wiped out, many enslaved ways of living and languages were stopped, not lost at the end of guns, at the end of brutal wars that were not sought out by the innocents nor evenly matched. The casualties of that level of violence, brutality and abuse of technology and weaponry and power cannot even be counted, Tamir. And when you descend from the perpetrators of that kind of atrocity and you live on the land you have taken by force, when your whole empire is built on the benefits of what has been paid for by innocent blood, it triggers a deep fear, Tamir, and sometimes unconscious bias that makes you protect your power at gunpoint, police the prizes of all that plunder, and whether you realise it or not, it's hard to feel safe in your own fair skin, Tamir, instinctively protecting others who share in that privilege. And there is deep fear of retaliation, of retribution, or simply and most often just reciprocity. And anyone that has the reason to rise up, well, it makes them try and control things in crazy ways, Tamir, especially the stories of who they were and who they are, and especially the stories of who we were and who we are. And you cannot believe their stories, Tamir, or you would think that killing a child and walking free is legitimate. Tamir, the kinds of things they have to tell themselves so that they can sleep at night, the lies they have to tell their children, the spiritual stories they have to tell about themselves to justify mass murder and thievery on an epic scale, the way they even have to twist the Bible in definitions of who is and who is not a neighbour, that you have to love as thyself. Their religion, their history, their holidays of Thanksgiving and other epic mistruths, slanted stories of discovering new lands, they teach it as truth, Tamir. There is a deep denial of truth, Tamir. The things they have to hide, Tamir, the deep fear under it all, the children they still have to kill who are casualties of them policing their privilege. None of this is new, but I want to say to you, it is because of all of this that you are no longer a breathing child. All of it is embodied fresh in your dead body, child. And we remember you as one of the fallen, following in the lost footsteps of so many good people who have gone before you. I imagine them, old souls, kindred spirits, with the angels who watch over those who succumb to such hatred. Tamir, know that we ache. We who know the difference between right and wrong and good and evil, between a child and a moving target. We know why they kill our children, and in honouring our dead, we will never give up on creating a world in which you would have lived. I don't want to leave you there, so I'm going to finish with a poem that I wrote in Hawaii also called Intergenerational Trauma and Healing, Lessons from Hawaii. I was there for 3 months on a Fulbright and was in the prisons, the women prison, and met women, a lot of them who had killed their partners after years of abuse. I went to a bookshop one time, beautiful bookshop, and it was very odd and eerie in there, and then I found out from the woman that ran it that one of the people who shelved had had died by suicide, and he was a young, bright literary student who had been a vet, or I don't know if you call it a vet, he'd been in Iraq, and she said, look at his beautiful books that we've been asked to sell, and I just bought them. I bought his books, and I read through his readings on genocide and Indigenous scholarship, and he'd written all this stuff in the sides, and it was hard to deal with. And then lastly, I went to Ma'o Farms, which is an organic farm, which is just really probably the most spectacular place I've ever been to in my life. I'll read from there. My boys were at Halau Kumana, which was an Indigenous charter school, and as I was walking along, there were these two young guys changing their baby on the back of a ute, and one of them just biffed a disposable nappy into the garden, and then that's where this starts. It's called Intergenerational Trauma and Healing Lessons from Hawaii, and this is my last poem. It is two teenage boys changing their babies on the back of a ute, tossing the dirty diaper into the green giving grass. It is the double helix, double-fisted, remembered and witnessed twice the anger of ordinary, double the reaction. It is the casualty of retaliation, a single gunshot killing that killer of dreams. A mother incarcerated for keeping family safe as houses. In the big house, we, society, are safe from her. Pain behind bars and children raised elsewhere. What is intergenerational trauma? It is the fertile ground of Iraq, where trauma is rich in the spurt and spill of other people's blood. It is the suicide of the sensitive and smart, post-traumatic serotonin-inhibiting sertraline and paroxetine, swallowing spiked with shots and doped with dope, but too big-brained to cope, taking an eye for an eye, a life for a life. What is intergenerational healing? It is the woman who will not touch alcohol, raising her children, hoping for more in the wake of that disappointment, raising her grandchildren, hoping for more, raising herself higher and higher, higher education, hoping for more. What is intergenerational healing? At Ma'o Farms in Waianae, even though the river itself has been stolen by the military, the earth still gives bounty. No pesticides on her skin. They turn to the soil, begin again, knowing that we cannot rely on the monovision of monocrop. They let the earth enjoy the diversity that she is, her natural inclination. They let her rest when she is tired, weed her gently with well-worn hands, eat the fruits of the land, harvesting food sovereignty along with the beans, sweating obesity out. The young here are treated for depression with Mycobacterium vacci, the serotonin release found from getting your hands dirty, touching the earth itself, actual jobs and scholarships, and hope in a system where jobs don't grow on trees and education is not the mono-bullet they promise to be, magic for tickets to ride. Here, where they look back to the future, ancestral remembering, guiding their way through seasonal cycles we have all moved through before. There is food on the table, big dreams, small business, collective self-sufficiency, organic deliveries, Waianae, saltwater swims at the end of a long day, the blue healing all kinds of sore. Almost everything natural wants to heal you. It is a remembering.